This conference will now be recorded.
There is a small like a renovation at my place, so I didn't take the PE one. Yeah,
Okay,
it's just finished. Yeah, I was like so I was helping something. So but now yeah, it's the work is done. So
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
tomorrow I will have the PE session with the trainer. Yeah, and then for tomorrow we are still like start at 11, I think, same time.
Okay. Tomorrow also same time, fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you clear with yesterday? Some confusions that you have?
Yeah, actually,
yeah,
yes, today, like, I just want to, so the last point, I have some doubts, like the last point, but I think it's fine. Like, basically the interface, right? Interface.
Yes.
We talked about interface. So the only question for me is you mentioned because you mentioned the interface is like the difference between interface and what and the class, right? I think
Abstract class.
yes, abstract. Yeah, and you said you mentioned when you don't know the method logic, basically you should use interface, right? Compared to abstract, and
Yes.
but if you know the method logic, you know like you know how to write, and you should use the what's that, abstract class, right? That's what we agreed, right?
The point is not only the method. So it is like, for example, in a class you have 10 methods, right? For example, in a class I may have 10 methods or 5 methods. So for example, you don't know the logic of the 5 methods, right? In a class, assume there is a 5 methods. You don't know the logic of any 5 methods, so you don't want to write the logic of any methods. Then you put it in the interface. But under 5 methods, only one method you know the logic, and the 4 methods you want to declare it as an abstract. For one method you want to write that logic, so you cannot put that under interface, because the interface will have only the abstract methods. So what you do, when your requirement is such way, what you do, you just keep that in abstract class. So it is not only one. I'm talking about the whole. For example, in a class you may have 5 methods or 10 methods. So for example, I have a 5 methods. In the 5 methods, I don't know the logic of any method, right? I'm not going to write the logic. I'm not going to have a body. So it is what is the requirement that you write that in an abstract class. So you can just write it in interface, because anyway you're not going to write a non-abstract method, a normal method. So then you should not be declaring it in an abstract class, right? You declare that 5 methods in interface. Assume that among the 5 methods, at least one method or two method, you know the logic of one method or two methods, and the remaining methods you just declare it as an abstract. Then that is your requirement, right? So in that case, when you know the logic of at least one method, you cannot declare that in interface. Then what you do, you declare that in abstract class. Is that my point actually?
So okay, basically you mean when you how to say, when you write like all method logic, and you should use abstract class, right? When you write like everything, that's that's the point.
Can you repeat it, Mike? Whenever?
Yes, when you write every logic in that method, like multiple and multiple method.
Any one logic. For example, I have a 5 methods or 3 methods. So I have a 5 methods. In this 5 methods, I know the logic of one method. Right? So it means I'll be providing the logic of this one method.
Yeah.
Remaining 4 methods, I'll declare it as abstract. 4 methods, abstract, and one method is a normal method, a non-abstract. A non-complex method, a non-abstract, where you have a logic. So
okay,
right? So you need to declare a 5 methods. So don't take that is nothing but interface or class. So where you want to put this method? That's the point. Whole point is nothing but where you want to put these methods. Whether you want to put this in interface or whether you want to put it in abstract. That is my point. That is the point actually. So in these 5 methods, what happens, you know one method logic. It means, for example, you are going to write a method like this, right? And remaining 4 methods, you want to declare it as an abstract methods, right? For example, M2 and M3 and M4, right? So all the methods you want to declare it as logic. So this is my requirement. So in this case, what I need to choose, I need to choose abstract or I need to choose interface. If this is my requirement.
You need to choose interface.
No, because I have one method where I need to write a logic, right? So in interface, you cannot write a method with logic, right? Then how you will choose the interface? You need to choose abstract class. So what is
okay.
The main difference between your interface and abstract class is, in abstract class, I can able to write a normal methods as well as an abstract methods. You agree with me, right? So for example, my abstract exe. So in this abstract exe, what I can able to write, there are little Eclipse is little, so I think it's getting loading. So what I can able to write, I can write in normal methods as well as an abstract methods, right? But in case of interface, what I can do, I can write only the abstract methods. I cannot write the normal methods. For example, if you see abstract exe3, your M2 M3 are nothing but an abstract methods where you don't have the logic. But in case, about M3, sorry, what about M1 where you have written a logic? So in abstract class, I can write a normal methods with body. I can write an abstract method also. So that is nothing but my abstract class. In abstract class, you can have both, right? But in case of interface, you are not allowed to write an abstract.
That's true. Okay. Yeah.
Right? I cannot able to write. This is what we studied. I cannot able to write normal method, right?
Yes.
So if I'm trying to write a normal method, it will show me an error. Do you agree with me, right? So
yes.
Because it is not allowed, only abstract methods are allowed. So this is the concept of your interface and abstract. So now here, what is my requirement? In this requirement, I have a 5 methods. In these 5 methods, one method should not be an abstract. It means that method should have a body like this, right? Open. And remaining 4 methods will be an abstract methods. So in that case, whether you will choose abstract or abstract class, or whether you put this in abstract interface, where you put this?
This one should be in. This one we should choose the interface, right?
No, Mike, we need to choose abstract class, right? If this is requirement.
We should choose abstract class.
What's the confusion? I'm not getting you again.
Yeah. I mean, in this case, the 5 you have 5 methods. Yeah, you have 5 methods, right? And the one methods you want to use non-abstract, right? And the other 4 are abstract class, right?
Yes.
In this case, if you let's say, so for these 5 methods, you should apply interface, not abstract class, right? That's the point.
Why?
Yeah, because in the abstract, because in interface you cannot you are not allowed to have any non-abstract class. That's the point, right? It must be abstract when you write in the interface, right? That's the point.
So you are telling the interface concept, right? But why you are telling this has to be chosen in abstract class in interface? Because you are only telling in interface, can I write M1 method like this? Can I do that?
In interface, in interface you write like this. Interface.
Don't confuse. No confusion, Mike. So I'm giving a clarity actually. So there is some confusion that you are having. So What is this M1? Whether it's an abstract method or normal method?
Here, yes, I remember. Yeah, this M1 and M2 are both abstract class.
Not class methods, right?
Methods. Sorry, they are both abstract methods, right?
Why you are calling it as abstract methods? Because there is no body, right?
Yes. And
Ended with,
yeah, because
ended with
here,
semicolon.
yes, because here you omit how to say abstract at the front, but it's still abstract. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Why? Because it's an interface. In interface, it is not required you to write an abstract keyword. Why it is not required to write an abstract keyword in interface? In an interface, you cannot have a normal method. In interface, very simple, Mike. I cannot have a normal method. I cannot have a normal method like this. What is this?
Yes.
With the body, can I have in that interface? Can I have like this?
No.
What it will show? It will show me the error. Abstract method do not specify the body. By default, whatever that you declare will be an abstract, right? So the point is, interface, you cannot have the method with a body, right? So here, what I'm telling, I have a 5 methods. In that 5 methods, my requirement, this is my requirement. In that requirement, I want for one method, I need to write the logic. So then how can I choose this in interface, this requirement in interface? I cannot, right?
Yeah, you cannot.
But you're telling you have to choose interface here.
No, so I'm wrong. I'm wrong. So you should choose abstract class, not interface.
That's what my that's the correct Mike. So you got why I should not choose interface. You got clarity now, right?
Yes.
Because so don't think that whether I'm putting in interface. So I have 5 methods. My requirement is in that 5 methods, one method will have a logic and the 4 methods will not have a logic. So in that case, where you're going to keep these methods, in an interface or an abstract class? Obviously an abstract class, because in interface you cannot keep a method with a logic. It will show me an error. Right? I cannot keep it.
Yeah. Now I got it. Yes.
The compiler, compiler will not compile the code itself.
Yeah.
I can keep that in an abstract class. In an abstract class, I can keep abstract methods as well as the normal methods, right? I can do that in my abstract class. So that is the reason you need to choose this requirement in abstract class, right? This is my first requirement. Assume that I have a requirement like I have 3 methods and the 3 methods are abstract. The 3 methods are abstract. I have 3 methods, void M1. So I am not writing any logic of any method. So then what I'll choose, whether I'll choose interface or abstract.
Interface.
So in this case, I'll choose interface because it is not mandatory. If you choose abstract also, it will not show me an error. But as per the like the suggestions, like you can choose interface, right? Because there is no requirement here for you. There is no requirement like you need to write a method, one method logic. So obviously you take this in interface. You take this first one in abstract class. You take this requirement in interface. So now you understood when you go for interface. When you
now I'm clear. Yeah, thank you.
So whenever you don't want any method logic, then you go for interface. When you want some methods logic, and when you want some methods, when you don't know some methods logic, then you put that in interface. That's a sorry, that you then you put that in abstract class. Is it clear, right?
Yeah.
So we have discussed an access specifier that there is some point that I left, and I think I have told you some wrong also. Just a minute.
Okay.
Access specifiers. So access specifiers, access modifiers. So we have discussed public, private, protected, right?
Yes.
So what do you mean by public?
Okay. I will
Forgot.
recall my memory. Was okay. I think I still remember. So public, basically public is the the method, right? You are talking about the method or class. Method, right?
Public can be the for public, if it is a method level or if a class level, the same, right? The what am
Yeah.
but what is the where I can access that on? I'm just asking you.
Yeah, basically public you can access from how to say that, you can access from like a different package or class. Yeah.
Yes.
You can
So
basically
it is like the public, the name indicates it is everywhere. You can access that everywhere.
yeah, you can access. If you want to use that, you just yeah, let's say if you want to use it in a different package, you can just import that package, and then you can use this class from that imported class or methods from that imported package.
Yes.
So, and you have like a full access basically. That's called the public.
So what about next one is your protected. So what about protected?
Protected. You are talking about the class or method here, or you talking about both?
Protected I cannot apply to a class.
Okay, yes. Protected. So okay, yeah, you're talking about method. Yes. So you're talking about the method. Yes, basically protected is this method. Basically, it means this method is protected, and you cannot like access directly, but you can access indirectly. That's called, I think that's called protected. Basically,
So,
the way is that you can create a child class and then to integrally call this method, right?
yes, exactly. So for example, I have
it's
a
difficult
protected.
to remember.
No.
Yeah.
No, the reason I was telling is nothing but based on this, I have to explain you some other concept in overriding.
Oh,
so that
okay.
So when you recall that only, I can able to understand it. So I am just reducing my thing that's not my end and asking you. So it will be a revision for you. So anyway, I need to repeat it to explain this. So I just making you to repeat that. So here protected is something where whatever you said is like where you access it in an indirect way. It means you call with a super keyword, right? Inheritance, whatever you exactly said. By using inheritance, I can able to do it. So generally outside the package, you cannot access protected or you cannot access default. For example, I have a method that is present outside the package. And if you are trying to access that, you cannot access it, the protected one or a default one. But the protected method has some advantage that you can access if it is child of that, right? But in case of default, if it is child also, you cannot access with the super keyword. And show you the difference.
Default. I don't. I think I lost the default.
Default is something where you cannot access outside the package. The method is if it is outside the package, you cannot access it.
Okay.
So if you see, you have an ABC class. In ABC class, I have public is something where you can access anywhere. So we see about protected and this default. If you see, M5 is default, M5 method is default method, M4 method is protected method.
Yes.
So this is present in com.examples3, right? So this is another package. Default package is another package, right? Which is not your com.example3. So I have an employee class. So in this employee class, what I made, this employee extends ABC, right? Now what is this ABC become as a child? So this ABC, which is another package, became the child of your employee, right? And in that I am just creating an employee object and I'm calling an update method. in that employee, right? And what I'm trying to call, I'm calling super.m4. What is this m4? Is nothing but your protected method. So you can see that you can access it from employee other package. So generally protected or default you cannot access if that is outside the package. They are limited only within the package. But a protected has a slight advantage is nothing but you can access that whenever that class has some child and parent inheritance relationship, you can access it. But if you see, I have an M5 method which is not protected, which is a default that I cannot able to access from here. From employee class, if I am trying to access M5, it will show me an error. So M5 is not at all visible to this. You can see that method is not visible. Why? Because that is default. If I made it as protected, then you can. So protected is something where you cannot, default is something where you cannot access even there is a child and parent relationship. Outside the package, you cannot access it. But for protected, there is some disadvantage. You just see that error gone. Why? Because I made that method also protected. But if it is default, again it will show me an error.
Oh, okay, but I thought the protected you can only use in within one package. That's what I understand.
Yes, you can. So protected or default both you can use within one package only. If they are outside, you cannot use, right? So, but protected has some advantage over default. What is that advantage? Is nothing but whenever there is a child and parent relationship that can be accessed outside the package also. So if you see this ABC is in different package and the employee is in different package. And in this ABC, you have two methods, one is M4 and M5. Your M4 is a protected method and M5 is a default method, right? So from this employee, what I can able to access? I can able to access M4. Why? Because this is protected. So protected has that advantage. What I'm telling, that child and parent relationship. Assume that it's not extending, you cannot.
Sorry. So here in this default package, you already import example 3 package, right?
Yes, yes, you can see.
That's
Import
important. Yeah. Okay. You imported this package and the class. Okay.
You can see the class. You can see.
Okay.
ABC class I have imported. Without importing, you cannot do extents also.
Yeah. Okay.
So you understood this both are in different package, and that's the reason you have imported it.
Yeah.
So
okay. So now and now you are talking the default class are not this It's class or what?
Default method.
Default method. So now you are talking about this M5 default method cannot be accessed, right? Cannot be accessed, but the protected one can be accessed. So that's your point, right?
Yes, exactly, Mike.
Okay.
So the protected has less restriction than default. There is, so generally both are outside the package. Generally there is for both, if it is protected and default you cannot access, but protected has some advantage is nothing but whenever there is inheritance, there is a child and parent relationship, you can access it. But default, even you cannot do that. Even there is a child and parent relationship also, you cannot do that.
I see. Yes, I see your point. After import that class, but you can still not use. You can still not use the default outside the package, but you can use the protected, right?
Yes. So protected also when you can use when there is only child and parent relationship. If there is no child and parent relationship, you cannot even use protected also, because you cannot call super.m4, right? So if there is no child and parent relationship, and if you created so for example employee is some object class in this package and ABC, right? And in this, if you are trying to access I'm creating assume that I'm creating an ABC object. So if you see, I'm just calling b dot. So if you see, you can see only M3 method. You cannot see M4 and M5. I cannot access M4 as well as M5. Why I cannot access? Because there is no child and parent relationship. In ABC, you have M3 public method. That's the reason you can access. Only public can be accessed. Protected cannot be accessed. Even default cannot be accessed. Because here there is no child and parent relationship. Your
yeah, I got the point. I got the point. Yes, yes.
As
Even
not
yes, yeah. Even like even it's protected, you cannot use. Only when there is like a parent-child relationship, then you can.
Yes, that's my point. Even parent-child relationship, that default cannot be used. Is that clear, right?
Yeah.
So here, based on this, can you tell me which one has less accessibility?
You mean among which one? Among among three or all of them? Public
Among
protect.
five among these four, which one has more accessibility?
Yeah, for sure it's public, right?
For sure, it's public. Which one has less? So what we do, we give numbering based on the accessibility now, right? I just want to increase the number based on the accessibility.
Sure,
so
sure. The most one is I think it's for sure public.
So what is the number I need to give here for this? Obviously 4.
Yeah.
What is the least one?
Least one, it should be private.
Because it has very
only that class specific.
So next what will be the?
Next one.
Protected or default?
Let me think. Public is the most, and then
private
second,
is the most.
Yeah, second. Then is then is protected, and after that is default.
Yes, exactly.
3.
I explain all this concept to tell this numbering itself. This is a concept reason of explaining this concept.
So sorry, it should be 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, right?
Yes. Sorry. It should be 2 here.
Yeah. I was confused because
we are increasing like this, right? So your default has less access. After next you have a protected. Next you have a right. So here the concept is when you are trying to do overriding as a rule. So when you are trying to do overriding, you should not reduce the accessibility. You are having authority to increase the accessibility itself. So for example, I have a child and parent, right? So I have a class A and class B extends my A. So in this case, I should not reduce. For example, you have a M1 method. A public void M1 method. So when you have a public void M1 method, when you are doing overriding, so you know what is overriding? Writing the same name, same signature, right?
Yeah.
So when you are doing an overriding, writing a name and same signature. In this case, you have an access specifier here also, right? So here what you need to do, in this case, you should not reduce that accessibility. You can increase that accessibility. For example, if I am doing overriding and if I write a default, what I'm doing here, I'm trying to reduce that accessibility from 4 to 2. That is not allowed. I can only increase that accessibility. So if it is public, I should only allow to write that as a public only. I cannot reduce the accessibility. Assume that in class A there is a method is default, right? Then I can write public. Yes, you can write because default has accessibility is 2 and you are trying to write it as 4. So it means you can increase that accessibility, but you are not allowed to reduce that accessibility. When you are trying to reduce the accessibility, it will be showing an error. Is this point clear?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, yes, I know. When you override, you can only increase accessibility, but you cannot reduce.
Reduce the accessibility. So if you see here, I have an ABC class, right? I have an ABC class. Don't worry about that implements. I have an ABC class, and in that I have M3, M4, M5, right? So while I'm trying to write M3, can I write it as default?
No.
No. So yes, it's if I'm trying to write it as default, it will show me an error. Void M3. So you can see that error, right? So you can read that error. What is that error? Overrides cannot reduce the visibility of the ABC. Can I write it as private?
No.
Can I write it
only public?
Only public. If I'm trying to write anything, it will show me error. Just confirmation for you. So the same error. So the only thing is nothing but your public. Here, what is this method? Protected for M4, right? So when I'm overriding, what I should write? Can I write it as public? M4?
Yes.
Yes, you can write it. Can I write it as default?
No.
I'm not putting anything default. It will show me error. So neither you can write with the same access pair. Neither I can write protected or I can write it as public. So when I write it as public, that error will not be there. You can see M5. So when it is an M5, I can write it as public. Can I write it as protected?
What is M5 now?
It's a default.
It's default. No, you. Yes, you can. Sorry, you can write. You can write that protected or public.
Yes. Now
you cannot write a private.
Yes, exactly. What you tell, I'm just writing it. Now you understood this very clearly, right?
Yeah.
Now, yesterday there was some error, and I said I'll explain what is that reason of that error. Right? So I have here M1 and M2 interface. What I'm doing, I'm overriding this M1 and M2, right? So I'll remove this public. It will show my name. Can you tell me that? I'm overriding M1. While overriding M1, I'm removing that public, and it is showing me an error. Can you tell me why?
Showing you. So now M1 is. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, so now you. What it was? It was public, right?
Yes, it was public method.
Public. Yeah, you cannot. You cannot because you reduced the accessibility. That's why.
You don't write as a public, but still it is public. Why? Because in a abstract, in interface, whatever the method that you declare, that will be by default, it is public method. If you don't write anything also, it will take public as an access specifier. So for example, interface, it is not required you to write an abstract, right? So similarly for interface, it is not required me to write a public access specifier. By default, whatever the method that you declare in interface is public, will have a method access specifier as public. So that is the reason you are not allowed to reduce the visibility. It can show the visibility of the method cannot be reduced.
Yeah.
You may think that I'm not writing anything. You may think the method M1 and M2 is default, and generally when you see it for the first time, you may have thinking like that, right? You may think that M1 and M2 Both are default methods. You may think because you are not writing as anything before a method, right? So you may think that, but in interface that is not. In a class, if you don't write anything, that is a public. In case of interface, if you don't write anything, that is not a public. Sorry, that is not a default. That is default. It is public. You are getting my right? Default, it is not default. Default, it is public. The statement is not confusing you, right? In interface.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah.
So by default, it is not default. By default, it is public. So that's the reason it's not required you to write a public. So whenever the access specifier is a public, you are not allowed to reduce it. So you should be writing it as a public. Is it fine, right?
Yeah. I got the point.
Yes. So these are some tricky things that you will have in Java also sometimes. Give me a minute, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we are good enough with this exception. Sorry, this interface and abstract things. So please go through this. If any doubts, we'll see that in later also. Right? So once I end the topic, it is not like we will not come back to that. So you just go to others also, other topics or the others. If you have any issues, we'll just come back again. We'll see that. For example, I have completed my access specifier.
Yeah. By the way, I see your these are the material you have, right?
About
Java.
this access. What you're asking about this accessibility or these things?
No. I saw you have some documents.
About access specifiers or about Java you're asking?
About the Java.
No, I told you, right? I was just preparing that. I'll just send you actually. So,
sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, no, not now. I mean, yeah, I saw you have some like those are the document you are like preparing, right?
So whatever I have, I have only few PPTs. If you see, I don't. There are other things actually. I have only few. That was only I'm just showing you. So I'll just try to prepare all this. So I have small notes. That's it. So
sure.
I have an abstract note. What we discussed about abstract class.
Yeah.
So you just take if it may be useful. So actually, I was not taking this virtual classes before. So this COVID only made us to take virtual classes. I have an experience of taking face to face actually. So then I'll have a note, but not virtually. That's a problem actually.
I see.
So right now I was just preparing those things. I have a notes in my notebook. so that I cannot share you, right? So I have to prepare in the document. So that's what I'm doing right now. So what
Sure.
happened? I was not getting some time to do that. Even I thought of doing this Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
I was
Sure.
doing something and I was not getting it. So for sure, I'll just try to make a proper note. But meanwhile, you just even have a note from your end also, because I have told you the topic. So you can just go. What I suggest is, instead of giving me note, you prepare it. It will be very good. So I think you have all the recordings, right? So
Yes.
what I suggest is nothing but you just go and give with the recordings. You can make that note by yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Sure.
I think you got this abstract, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start with exception. So you have an exception. So generally, a part of Java, what is the meaning of an exception? Is something that has happened which you don't want to happen, right? So for example, this COVID-19 is an exception for all of us, right? So we don't expect this situation comes to and we will be in a lockdown or this we have not expected this kind of things, right? So this is
Yes.
nothing a kind of exception, right? Is how is your code there in your place, Mike?
Yeah. It's Actually, it's now like in my province, like every day we got we got about 100 increase in the whole province, and my
Okay.
city. Yeah, my city is like maybe 20 per day, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Where do you live in Canada?
Yes. Canada. Yes.
I'm asking the state or something where you have. Even I have one of my friend in Canada. That's the reason I'm just asking you.
I'm living in the like in the Quebec, the province. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, but US is more like it's much more serious like now.
Okay. Right now, Canada, you are right now in a good. It's not like much panic for you.
It's not safe. Like it's still risky. I want to. It's still risky. Like but everything is reopened. So but
Okay.
the government they are worried about the second wave. So that's like in September it maybe have a peak again. So that's what we worried about. But for now it's not like the peak. It was like in May. In May it was like all June. How to say April? It was the bigger like a bigger peak. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now,
How is your side? How is
it's
the
a same situation, but it is like the death rate was not much high. The COVID cases were getting increased rapidly. But the death rate is not much high. So that's the only good. But COVID cases, obviously, they are getting it every day. It's getting increased.
I see. But in your area it's increased or in your area is fine. It's like flattened.
No. In my area also, it's
It's
very
still
dangerous.
increased rapidly.
Yes, rapidly. In the
Okay.
state, my area, in my state, in my provision, my area has like fifth or sixth position. Even there are lot in my at my place actually, daily 100 or 150.
Okay.
It is not so
But
big, but
everything is locked, right? You stay at home, so
no,
basically it
no,
should
no.
be
As
safe.
of now, there is no lockdown actually. In India, before there was a
Oh,
lockdown, but we cannot continue a lockdown for long time, right? So everything was open actually. There is only the entertainment things like cinema, like the theaters or uh,
okay.
so these things were just closed. Even in a place, is that entertainment things are closed or they are running it actually like your
They are running actually. So they are
okay
running.
people are okay multiplexes or these things
Yeah,
people are
but now the thing is a lot of new cases are from the club. They
okay.
are from the clubs. Yeah. It's very dangerous in the club now. Like
don't know what is going to happen. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's an exception, right? So we cannot do anything in case of COVID-19 or some exceptions. But what we do, we just have to handle it in another way, right? So that's what we are doing. So when an exception comes, it comes in a runtime and you don't know anything that, but it is something that you handle it. Handling in the sense you will not solve that exception completely. You take your path, but in a different way. So you can study this slide actually if you want. I'll just give a minute, like not required me to.
Yeah, it's a good PPT. I mean, it's clear. Yeah, I think it's planned in a good way.
Okay, so that is nothing but your exception handles and remove error from the main method. So it disturbs your normal flow, right? So you can see some real-time examples. So for example, if you are watching a video and suddenly there is an internet connection issue or some you realize that's nothing but your exception. And when you're driving a car, there is your fuel got finished. Everything is an exception. How you solve it? You just do that fueling or you just do puncturing of that car. That is nothing but you're handling the exception. It does not mean that you're solving an exception. So if you see, this is how you handle an exception. So for example, you are having a normal flow and you got an exception at some point. What you do? You take some other path and you travel it. And you are not doing anything in an exception. You are handling it means you are taking an alternative path. So you in programming language, you handle that exception by writing a try and catch. So generally what happens whenever you have like 100 lines of code in an application, and if there is an exception comes at some particular line.
I want to ask a question here.
Yes, ask.
So, because like I know exception how but the thing is because I see, for example, like for these days, in our training, like in our session, when we use Eclipse, if there is anything wrong, if there is anything like not good, it's wrong, I mean the IDE Eclipse itself will throw error for you.
Yes.
So in that case, if everything is good, you can run. How what is the chance the exception like occurs again? Because I think when you code in the IDE, like in Eclipse, like it already like adjusts everything for you, right?
Yes, there is a difference between an exception and an error. So, for example, I have not written the semicolon. What your ID will
like it already give you, yes.
It will ask you to write that semicolon. So this is not an exception. Then this is an error. This is compile time error. You have another errors also like stack overflow errors. That's different. So this is just like a compile time errors, right? So but when you run a program, you get some exception. So I'll just show you in just a couple of minutes. So then you get more clarity in it. So that this is not an exception. There is no relationship between this. This is nothing but your errors, right?
Okay.
Here, your exception is something different actually. I'll tell you what is an exception, why you get an exception. You understood what is an exception, right? But in programming, what exactly an exception, why you get an exception, I'll just give you a clarity in couple of minutes, right? So for example, in your program, you have 100 lines of code and you got some exception at fifth line. That is not your error, some exception that you got at fifth line. So what happens? Your remaining part of the code will not execute. From the sixth line, your code will not execute. That you don't want to do it because whenever you are having 100 lines of program, if there is a bug or some issue happens at some particular line, so what happens? That only that particular some part should not be executed, but remaining code has to be executed because that normal termination has to be there. It should not be abnormal termination. What is the meaning of abnormal termination? Is nothing but not executing the remaining part of the code, that you call it as abnormal termination. Normal termination, executing every part of the code, like 100 lines of the code, and you get the screen. That is nothing but your normal flow. So for example, an exception, simple example, when you go to an ATM machine, and for example, if there is any your bank server is not responding or your account is not having balance, there may be then any issue that you call that as an exception. For example, if there is no exception, you go to the ATM and you draw that amount of money that you want. So there is no issue. But when you go to an ATM and if there is a bank server issue or something else issue, what happens? It will get, that is nothing but an exception that you don't know that will happen, but happen. But as an end user, you should be knowing it. You should show it as a message that okay, this is the reason, right? It means that exception has to be handled in a proper way.
I know. For example, like a Java long, out of memory. That's an exception in the heap area, right? In the JVM heap.
That's an error.
I only know that.
Because
the testing, performance testing,
yes.
all the time you will get that. Yeah.
So even even we'll discuss that. Stack Overflow. You have a Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow exception is there. Memory out of bound error is there, right? So you cannot do in that anything. So we'll discuss that also, Mike.
Yeah.
So when I come to errors and exception, I'll be telling you that point also. Fine.
Sorry, I want to ask another question here.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, before we wrap up today, because I know, like, let's say the public interface, in this example, public interface interact EX, right? So it is the interface. So and then we have void M1 abstract method, and also the second abstract method, which is M2, right? So until now, everything I'm saying is correct. You do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. So then my question is, because I know these two M1 and M2, they should be public. In default, they should be public method, right? Public
Yes,
void M1, public void M2, right? So
yes,
here everything is good. So my question is like, because in my mind, if I'm the developer, I will write public for M1 and M2, like in order to avoid confusing for, I think, like in my idea, if let's say if I need to do the peer review, so another developer, let's say there is a senior developer like you and I'm a junior, for example, and then I will, in my case, I will write public for both, and then
okay.
Yeah, my question is like, which is the best practice, like in a real world?
Without writing public or with writing public? You are telling like that.
Yes, because for me, it will be easier to confuse in a peer review. It will confuse the guy, right?
Whether that the method is the default or public.
Yes, but it's a little bit tricky, because I'm thinking not so tricky, I think, but like the thing in best practice, let's say if for you, like let's say as a senior Java developer, you will write public or not. I think you will not, right? But I thought it's better to write.
Yes, actually, I'll answer you two questions. There is one more question that you have forgot to ask me. I thought you will be asking. So you should be asking me the question why they have given in interface a public method. Why it is not allowed to write a private method? You have not got this doubt, Mike. I will answer your question also. Why they are not allowing to write as a private? So whether you asked me whether to write it as a public or not write it. That is your question, right?
Yes. But I know they are public. But yeah. But I think from my point of view, it's better to write. Like do not confuse the others.
Okay, it's your choice actually. When you do a development, what happens? You write it as a public also. So when you do it a development you write it as a public, but you don't. For example, it is required me to write as an abstract. Is it required me to write as an abstract? Sorry, abstract spelling is wrong. Is it required? No, right? Because by default, the method is an abstract. It's not required, right? So if you want, you can write that as an abstract method. It depends on the developer actually. So you can write that as an abstract method or you don't write it. Compiler will take that as an abstract method. You write it as a public method
and
or don't write it.
it's the same thing for public. It depends on the developer.
It
Both
depends
are
on
fine.
the
So
both
both
are
are
fine.
fine.
If you don't write it as a public also, it will take it as a public only. If you write or don't write, what is the difference? It will not make any difference. As a in a perspective of you only, it makes a difference, right? But by default, it is public. If you don't write also, it is public. If you write it as a public, if you write also, it is public, right?
And it will impact the performance. That's a more important question.
There is nothing like that. There is nothing at all in that. There is no relationship into that. So here, your question should be, I think you didn't got a question like why it should be public. You should be getting this right. Why I cannot write?
Yeah. Actually, I don't. I don't like. I was not focused on this. I was not care about it. I just want to ask, do we need to write public or not?
Now you should get this question right. Why it should be public?
I never think about it. But I know it's a public.
I'm telling you in that way because everything I said you right in Java is everything is interlinked. It's like a butterfly effect. So everything is interlinked. So there should be some reason why this method should be public.
Yeah, you are right. I agree. There should be some reason. Yes.
There should be some reason why they are not allowed. For example, in a class, why they have given private protected default in a class? Because in a class you may have a requirement, right? What is that requirement? Is a method can be read, or so some methods can now have access only to the particular class. For example, create, I just want access only in a class level, so I'll make it as a private. In a class, I'll have a method where I want access to everything, like a read operation, that I'll make it as a public. So that is a requirement. That's the reason you may have that requirement, and they given it as public, private, protected, allowed in a class level. So but in case of an interface, only public is allowed. Why private, protected, default are not allowed, right? Because why they have given every method as a public? Because so generally when you write a method in interface, so what is that in real time application, what you do, this method should be overridden by some class, right? This is for sure. The method should be overridden by some class. So assume that this is a BC class which is present in the same package, right? This is a BC class which is present in the same package. Assume that, so generally in real-time application, you will not override the methods in the same package, right? So I have this way this interface exe is present. So this is present in demo 3. Where is my demo 3 SRS?
So yeah.
It's time up.
Yeah. And also, I think we lost the connection. Yeah. Can we wrap up here, and we will continue tomorrow?
Okay, fine. If you have some work or something.
Actually, my I was like my battery is like ending, and I don't yeah.
Okay, I'll tell this point. I thought of telling this and ending it, but I'll be telling you this tomorrow. Fine.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Have a good night, Suya. So see you.
Okay. My good night. Sorry, good night. Good day. It will be
no problem. Bye.
Morning, night. Good night. Okay. Bye.